You're listening to the Before You Market podcast. In a world of endless tactics and fleeting trends, we're here to show you why putting your brand first changes everything. Join us as we explore how a brand-first strategy can revolutionize your marketing. Get ready to rethink marketing. This is Before You Market.
All right, and we are recording. Good to go. All right, cool. Welcome. Let's try over. With a little more voice this time. Welcome to the Before You Market podcast. I am your husky voice host here, John Michael Bailey, back from the dead, back from 2 major surgeries. So I sound a little funny, but I'm good to go. And I'm here with my special guest, Mitch Joel. And this is the Before You Market podcast, where we challenge you to rethink marketing. So Mitch has been gracious, dealing with waiting on me to get better. So this has been a long time coming. So I'm very excited about talking to Mitch. So to help you to rethink marketing, we've invited Mitch, and we've been inviting other guests in the business to enlighten you on your path to what we like to call a brand first awakening. Mitch Joel is just an OG in digital marketing strategy, and one of the very first to really blog about it and talk about it on a regular basis. Some of his original blogs were just rich with some of the most forward-thinking and innovative ideas that I can remember. He's been thinking, speaking, and writing about effective marketing strategies for decades. So I've interviewed him once before, but this time it feels more special because I'm finally with a team that truly embraces what it is that he's talking about. So again, it is an absolute honor to speak with one of the industry's thought leaders. So Mitch, please take a moment and introduce yourself to these good people.
Well, thanks for having me, John. I'm very happy to see you healthy and smiling, even with your husky voice. So it's all fine. I'd rather have a husky voice than the alternative at this point.
Yes.
I've been in the media communications marketing space since day one. I started off as a music journalist and published music magazines, print, before there was an internet. Managed to squirrel my way into one of the first search engine businesses long before Google existed, and built out a lot of the modern advertising models that we currently see in these trillion-dollar valuation companies.
Right.
Did a little skirmish in mobile content, which might sound strange and obscure, but this was before we had smartphones and even a mobile web browser. And then in the early 2000s, along with 3 other business partners, started building a digital marketing agency that we built up to be multi-office national. And then we sold to WPP, a very large marketing communication space. And in that, we built out 6 Pixels of Separation, which is the name of the blog that you spoke about earlier, as well as the podcast. Yep. All of those have been consistently running for close to 20 years on both parts. So it's been quite the journey. I wrote 2 books about the space, and then do a lot of presenting about media communications, and now more shifted towards technology and innovation. Obviously, AI is a big growing concern. So sold that business about, believe it or not, 11 years ago, left about 6 or 5. And currently what I do is I have a small startup called Thinkers One, which is helping businesses buy bite-sized and personalized thought leadership from some of the best thinkers in the world. So that's been a fun little thing. So I'm eating my own dog food in the e-commerce world, as well as speaking. And I do a lot of media appearances, and I do some investing as well. So I feel very active and still engaged in all things brands and media.
Well, it's exciting to talk to you, like I said, because, it may not seem like a long time to some people, but starting a digital marketing agency in the early 2000s is like, that was just unheard of back then for most of the population. And so you've seen just tremendous amounts of change over the years, and managed to just kind of roll with it and always be sort of somewhat ahead of it, I would say. So I'm very I'm very excited to kind of dig into your brain a little bit and get some nuggets out. Um, so are you ready to do this? Let's dive in.
I'm waiting. Let's go. I'm
All
tired of
right.
talking about myself. Let's
There
go.
you go. There you go. Well, as we said, you've been in this game for a while, and you've seen these shifts, and you've seen shifts in marketing and branding and really digital transformation, which never wasn't even a phrase back in the early 2000s. So from your perspective, what's the biggest change in how brands need to think about marketing compared to like even a decade ago?
I mean, if I were to reflect on what the biggest challenge might be right now, I think it comes out of the advertising component of the marketing industry, which would be the fact that we're now seeing trillions of impressions. And
Right.
what trillions of impressions mean and comes with is a lot of problems and challenges. We could say opportunities. I'm less in the opportunistic side because of what it means. What it means is we come from historically a world where advertising was a scarcity model. You advertised against and paid for the limited inventory that was available to a brand to communicate a message to some type of audience. So if you think about television advertising, there might only be 4 or 5 slots in a 30-minute program. Those would go to the person willing to pay the most. In terms of them coming back as a brand, it would be based off of whether there was an action or reaction to that ad or not. In the early days of digital, I think that was still the great promise. It was this idea that while we may not have 4 or 5 outlets, we now have thousands, but they're much more targeted. So now we can speak directly to, in this case, would be a brand marketing audience. And that's why you would want to advertise, let's say, on your podcast. But what happened in just the nature of the business, and there's many reasons for this, we now have trillions of ads. We have a whole bunch of fraud with that, from bots to pixel stuffing to all the problems we have in just the media. We have publishers running multiple types of ads or sponsorships or opportunities on a page, which is very disruptive, obviously, to the user experience. And then we just have things called views and serves, like when is an ad actually served? And you have many of them driving off of how many pixels were downloaded, which could be just even a fraction of the ad if it's even served.
Right.
And if all of these trillions of ads were served, it means that if you're spending your entire life online 6 to 7 hours a day, you may actually see these messages for perhaps 2 seconds, and that's it.
Right.
And so in a world where we thought we have more channels, we can use algorithmic programming to better understand our consumers, and then we can target it more specifically to them. We've come to this point currently where targeting has become statistically improbable. So what happens at a very simplistic level now is advertising has shifted from a scarcity model to one of abundance. Now that's okay, but the economics shift dramatically and performance shifts dramatically. So if you were to say to me overtly, that's the easiest thing for me to pin on in terms of the big challenge we now as brands have in terms of getting our information to the marketplace.
It's funny. You wrote about this in a recent article on 6pixels.com, and we're really in this sort of wild attention economy where, like you're saying, we're fighting for attention. So, building on that, you've written and spoken a lot about consumer trust. So I'm wondering, you certainly have an interesting take in your recent blog post about the attention economy being bankrupt, but I'm wondering what's your take on how brands can cut through the noise and build real long-term trust with their audiences? Maybe it isn't advertising, maybe it's something else.
I mean, the idea of the attention economy, I really think, is being replaced by the intimacy economy. And the shift and ability for brands to do that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And what I mean by intimacy is not that we are getting intimate and doing anything that HR would disapprove of. It's the idea that in a world where I text you and you text me and ... means I'm excited, I'm listening. What are you going to say now? Hopefully you're not going to ghost me.
Right.
And we now have these types of communications proliferating at scale. So if you think about AI chatbots, they will mimic that. When you type in a prompt for ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, it doesn't just give you the answer. It looks like it's typing it, it's thinking, it's revising, it's reasoning, it's doing all these things that give us the feeling of intimacy. Oh, it's doing it just for me.
Right.
And the brands that can mimic that in terms of the messaging, how they connect, how they communicate, how they understand actually based off of my interactions, what I really need back, will be the brands that win. So the antidote isn't to not advertise. The antidote is several things. One is create your own standard or metrics that are universal. Be able to say that I'm not going to be on platforms that do a 30% pixel as a view and count that. I'm only going to work with publishers that do this. Audit more frequently. Typically, it's surprising to me that we don't audit in real time, which I still can't expect brands to do, but I think you can audit semi-real time, meaning you're not going to do it quarterly. You're not going to do it post-campaign. You're going to start, maybe have one or two instead of it being in real time as it's going, which leads you to a place where you could do smaller bets with bigger buys. I could do smaller bets that fall in this alignment of my new value system and how I'm going to do things, and then expand and grow them based off of performance and whether or not it aligns with all of that. And then last, I think we do have to account for what they called in retail shrinkage, which is like, we know that people are going to shoplift, things are going to be broken that we're going to have to pay for. So some of that bot traffic, some of that pixel stuffing, we're just going to have to account for. The publishers that aren't being 100% transparent, maybe we're going to just devalue on the metric side because we know there's some type of offset. So there are many things that we can do on the advertising side to mitigate what happens as we transfer from this attention economy to this intimacy economy. In terms of what that also means is, how do you get closer to your customers?
Right.
And if the answer is we send out more messages that have more repetition and is just in their view scope, okay. But I want to push back on the idea, which is something I've been talking about now for 20 years, which seems absurd, that you as a marketer have the ability to communicate in text, images, audio, video, long form, short form, real time, recorded. I mean, we're doing this, we're recording it. This could have gone live. It's probably going to be recorded and edited. You're creating a long form content with this as a form of marketing to your audience, and in a form of hopefully those who are listening to this engage with this, and not just like me or like you, but like the idea. And they want to become a part of this in terms of them being a voyeur, in terms of them maybe commenting or sharing, like all of the things we talked about in the early days of social, which again, didn't necessarily come out the way we had hoped. There's the opportunity to build more direct relationships. So I'm not saying text your customers. I am saying through opt-in and actual permission. Again, we're going back to the early days of those marketing with permission marketing and Seth Godin's. So it's all true and relevant today. But I can build a more direct / intimate relationship if I'm communicating to you through, let's say, email.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that means I should be spamming you with my 15% off sales, but I can also, again, create content for you. You can also bring in people who have an audience, who speak and who are both creating content, and it's aligned philosophically with what your brand believes in. And so I'm actually a big proponent of influencer marketing when it's not done as the influencer has the outweight in terms of their access to the audience, but it's a triangular fit. It's the right brand with the right influencer and the right audience, that there's actually a reciprocated relationship where everyone is helping each other in that relationship. Meaning the people who are watching, it's not that they're helping because they're buying, but when they do buy, it's of value and it fits within that their own buying persona or whatever it might be. So in a very simplistic way, as a marketer, you've never had more tools to build and connect proper ethical relationships. Don't just rely on what has been traditional models in a world where all of those models, even digitally, have been upended.
Yeah. I and in addition to that, you've seen that AI is everywhere now. So I wonder, you're talking about intimacy, you're talking about being intimate with your customers and creating that relationship. And so, is the idea of storytelling something that you can utilize so brands can balance AI generated content with human creativity and authenticity, meaning, you know, is storytelling something that they can fit into their arsenal, maybe with influencers, maybe with other channels in different ways to sort of, I don't know, outwork the AI bot sort of, you know, content churn that seems to be happening right now with that intimate, real storytelling content.
You've
If that
been,
makes any sense at
it
all.
does. Yeah. No, you've been reading my work. You mentioned this attention economy article that I'm presuming you
Right.
read.
Yes.
Did I write that, or did AI write that, or did AI assist me in writing that? What do you think the answer would be, knowing my work and reading that article?
Man, I'm gonna
Don't
get
answer.
this
It doesn't
wrong.
matter. Doesn't matter.
I'm gonna say you wrote it, but
But it doesn't matter. My
yeah,
point being that
right.
if AI fully wrote that, partially wrote that, or I wrote that, it resonated with you.
Sure.
And the
Okay.
real role of the marketer is to leverage tools that can scale the intimacy in a way in which it's invisible to the customer.
So it's not either or, is what you're saying.
I mean, look, historically, I've always had the same line, which I feel is already boring, so I don't bring it out, is everything is with, not instead of.
Right.
But if we are, as marketers, confronted with the intimacy economy, which I believe we are, the only way to scale that would be to use AI, I'll use the word ethically again, but in a proper way where that the actual consumer of it doesn't go, oh, it's just AI. I was recently tagged in an article on LinkedIn because someone was like, I wonder what you think, Mitch Joel. And I went and read the article and I was like, oh, you just wrote that in ChatGPT or ChatGPT wrote that. And I didn't say anything, but I did message the individual and say, I get it. And thanks for thinking of me, but I know you didn't write that. Oh, what are you saying? And I've worked with the tools enough to know how it structures it, certain words it uses. I'm like, you can deny, but you didn't write that article. And I sent them back a link to something I had worked on with AI and said, answered the question that I just posed to you, John, and they couldn't. And I said, that's how you make AI work. That's how you make AI scale. The challenge we have is we are coming out of an era where we had content farms anyways. We had people just creating random content, keyword stuffing, SEO, gaming, and all that stuff. So if we just continue down that path, AI will do that. AI will create semi-crappy articles that give you SEO and give you links, and until eventually we build a bot that can detect that it's AI generated, and then Google, it's just this crazy game. Or you can look at this moment in time, which is magical, to make your content resonate more. So I'll give you another quick example of that. When I edit my podcast, 6 Pixels of Separation, I used to not edit it. I'd record it in Skype and post it and be like, yeah, I'm like indie and garagey. And, you'll deal with the
very
pain.
crisp pen.
Yeah, you'll deal with you'll deal with the pain of it because there's value in the content. And then all of these AI generated tools came out. One that I happen to love and use, and I'm not an affiliate or anything, it's Descript. I can put in the audio. It can split out both tracks. I can edit the audio like I edit a Word document because I have no editing skills. And then magically at the end, I can hit this one little button that puts on it an audio filter so that if you're not using a good mic or you're in a safe room that's quiet, it will make it sound like an NPR studio. And the sound is incredible. So if I said to you, John, like how much AI is involved in my podcast, you would be like, none. It sounds warm and it sounds conversational and it's very human. And the answer is, it is, but it only sounds that way now because of all the AI I use in it.
Right.
And because I'm able to hit a button that says show notes and it creates all the show notes and they're exactly perfect, it gives me more time to think about the conversation. It gives me more time to maybe build out the studio and get better lights or whatever it might be. So how we use the tool isn't the problem. It's how we deploy the tool. Now, if I were to say to it and build out a bunch of prompts related to different types of audiences, another simple example is normally when I have the podcast, I don't like promoting on social media. It makes me feel ucky. So normally what I would do is I'd write a quick thing, post it on LinkedIn, post it on Facebook, and off I go. But now using these tools, I'm able to say, this is what I'm posting on LinkedIn. Can you create something completely different for Facebook? And it's writing it for a different audience too, because I've expressed to it my audience. So nobody is looking at that now and saying, oh, I liked Mitch so much better when he just copied and pasted. So if I'm following him on LinkedIn and Facebook, I just see the same thing all the time.
Yeah, right.
So those things make our world as marketers magical. And with that comes huge challenges for sure. Like, Would I ever hire a junior to help me with any of these things? The answer is I would not. Yeah. So there's problems that come with it too. It's agnostic. It's not good. It's not bad. It can be both, and it can be amazingly great and horribly terrible. Marketers tend to use it for the easy out versus the way in.
True. Yes, exactly. And that was kind of what I was gonna say is it's a tool. It's a very powerful tool, but so was social media at the time when it came out.
But this one really allows you to master, if you believe my philosophy that we are in this intimacy economy, it allows you to master it. And again, I could never, if we had this transition pre-generative AI, it would be really problematic for most brands to deal with. So it's kind of fortuitous that we're having it at this moment.
Well, it's the universe expressing itself,
through
digitally.
Technology.
Technology. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, but that's interesting because it is a tool. It's a very powerful tool. Its arrival is its timing is perfect. But I still wonder, because we talk about here at Brand Theory, we talk about a brand first awakening. So what we're talking about is ensuring companies define their identity and target audience before pursuing the latest tactics, even AI. So, given the pressure to achieve quick wins in digital marketing, especially if you're a business owner and you're saying, I need traffic to my website, or I need sales, how can brands, in your opinion, be convinced to slow down and focus on strategy instead of constantly chasing these metrics, these clicks and conversions?
I don't feel one way or the other on that.
Okay.
If you want to do that and just chase the latest, you might find something in that.
Right.
If you want to be more strategic, yeah, of course, I'm a fan of being more strategic. Do I think we can be complacent? We cannot be complacent. Do I think that there is a million challenges in every challenge I throw down to marketers? There is. Do I tell people to do as I say and not as I do? I do. I always have. So I'm able to self-acknowledge that all of this is not easier. It's not necessarily faster, and it's not necessarily cheaper. But if done well, it's more effective. Now, I actually don't care, because at the end of the day, you can have as many impressions as you need or don't have access to. It's about your revenue. I mean, marketing is the function to drive revenue. This is still the business that we are all in. Yeah. And so if it's effective and it's working for you and it's legal, I don't really have a bone to pick with any of that. But if I were starting today and rethinking things today, we can rethink things in this moment that we couldn't even do 6 months ago, while being non-oblivious to the idea that the same thing is the same thing. I mean, we are creating messaging to create attention, to create interest, to create action. Like, the model hasn't changed. So when people say, like, has marketing changed forever? I'm like, I don't know. Do you have more ways to make it impactful and to build some type of relationship and customer base? Absolutely. I think that is fundamentally true. And the other thing that I do think is true is that anyone's ability to start or try or test is much lower and easier. So it's not that it's less expensive, but the truth of the matter is we live in a Shopify world, that if somebody wants to start a business, they can do it and launch it for very, very little, not free, but almost close to it, in a world where when I was growing up, I mean, you needed thousands of dollars just to get out of the gate. And there was no attention to be had. There was no viral thing to be had. There was no ability even to put a storefront on. E-commerce in the early days of digital in the 2000s was a fortune to do. Shopify benefited from a moment in time called the cloud, that they were able to move it to that level. I mean, I come from the days where two companies would be on the same e-commerce platform, but different versions. And in and of itself, that was a 6-figure plus iterative way that would cripple the company if they had to do the upgrade. So things change and things maybe get somewhat I'll say easier, but the truth of the matter is, and I haven't done this and I'm just thinking about it now, I do wonder if we looked at the overall success rate of businesses from the internet to pre-internet, if the number would be different. Like maybe we just have more businesses, but the vast majority of businesses, like over 90%, still don't make it. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what the number is, but your opportunity to do this is amazing. And so when I speak to marketers, my optimistic message is you can do so much. There's so many, that you should never be in a place where you're saying to yourself, I'm not sure what to do. And there's a million avenues now in a world where we definitely didn't have that. And I would even make the argument that there are models, many of which I've studied and spoken about, where marketing is a business line. It's actually revenue generating for businesses because they've thought of a way to deploy some type of digital service or enablement that is at its core an engine of marketing, but drives actual revenue and loyalty.
Interesting.
I can give you a quick example if you want.
Yeah, please.
Think about Hot Wheels cars. They have a red line community. Red line is the original Hot Wheels that are worth all the money from back in the day. The little red line on the tire. So they call it the red line community. They charge $10 a month. And what do you get from it? You get community, you get access, maybe you get previews, you get access to premium products that are only for sale to the red line community, of which they charge a massive premium over. If you went into a store and bought a 99-cent car, you're talking $35, $40 for these types of things. And all of that is a way to also market to this audience who are interested in Hot Wheels and collectibles or die-cast, whatever it might be, at scale. And they're getting people to proactively raise their hands and pay to be a member of that club. And again, iteratively, you're seeing it even when businesses are developing things like Netflix subscription models. You know, for $50 a month, you are entitled to access all of our services. I mean, sure, they may be making, they may in their business flow, making things more aligned so that there's not so many variables. But at the same time, you're also getting people to check that box that says, because of that, I'm allowing you to communicate with me and me to communicate with others. And all of those are great marketing defenses against a world that is very, very competitive with a lot of options.
But would you say that those things are a result of more strategic thinking versus just chasing metrics? Or is that oversimplifying it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Like, I mean, my whole thing is I don't want to be the person standing up on stage telling you about how Kodak missed the digital camera movement, even though they invented it. It's like every speaker in the history of anything will tell that story 20 years later when it's not even, you know.
Yeah.
So I can't sit here and tell you, no, this was like an in-depth strategic thing that Mattel and I have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was happenstance. I don't know if it was an intern. I don't know if it was a third party that sells community services. That I have no clue of knowing it. And by the way, it doesn't always work. It might be very small, and small might be still extremely valuable. So I don't want to guess. In a perfect world, we want to hope that we're all strategic and brilliant and we planned all of this. I feel like the result of great work is typically a mix of everything. It's how you think, it's how you learn, it's how you build a team, it's how you empower people.
It's timing.
It's timing. You know, Google, it was known in the early days of Google that the products and services that won were the ones that had excellent leads on it that could politic for it and build the people around the team. And while we could say that's great because we've all benefited from things like Gmail or what have you, I'd be curious to reevaluate that and look at it and say, how many great things could Google have released that just didn't have that type of system where the leader led its popularity versus the market, for example. So, I don't know. I can look, human beings are incredibly brilliant. And at the same time, we do the stupidest things.
Yes.
So I just live by the way we are as humans versus this desire to want to know that this is some type of elevated, deep thinking. I don't know. So
to keep businesses from doing more stupid things, I wonder if you would help them sort of navigate the next 5 years of marketing. So crystal ball time, you know, if you could give some advice to businesses, whether starting out or whether pivoting or whether, you know, just moving on to the next phase, what should they focus on now to ensure that they stay relevant and connected to their audience and see growth and see revenue?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same and a lot of the different. One is your
Right.
ability to understand how you're going to dance in a world where there's both an importance to do brand storytelling and performance driven things, in a world where performance is almost as expensive as just doing or non-effective, but potentially is running general run of network advertising, just
Right.
putting things everywhere. Another one would be understanding where we sit in this world of the intimacy economy versus the attention economy, understanding that we might be in a place of abundance and not scarcity and what that means. So, I mean, ultimately what we're saying is brand know thyself.
Thanks for listening to Before You Market. Want more insights on revolutionizing your marketing strategy? Visit beforeyoumarket.com for all our episodes, exclusive content, and the Before You Market book. Remember, great marketing starts with a strong brand. We'll see you next time on Before You Market.